There is a weakness there. Thankfully, it doesn't happen often because of how ubiquitously we are exposed. False positives, like cadmium and beryllium, we don't worry about it because it can happen in vivo just as easily as it does in vitro. Reduced value with universal reactors, this kind of testing just does not do well if the patient does not process the problem through the immune mechanism. I have to have an antibody present to tell me there's a problem. Universal reactors that react at cell membrane level do not process through that system. We can still help you narrow the field, but we don't have as good track record with this kind of patient, and you need to know that. Challenges need to be in a soluble or miscible form. Believe me, if you ever tried to get hexane, polyether, or xylene into a soluble or miscible form, we have a few trade secrets there. It takes some doing. It is not simple, but that's what it has to be for immune testing. We place these in microtiter trays. We introduce a quantity of patient specimen. After a controlled incubation, it is evaluated spectrophotometrically, and then we visually inspect the plate. There are things the machine cannot distinguish apart, such as a precipitin versus an agglutination reaction. Visually, they're fairly easy to differentiate, and they mean very different things. Acquisition of the products. In order for us to test a material, we start with an MSDS or a product insert. This tells us who makes it. It tells us what the government thinks is a problem, and that's about the extent of it. And if you have a very proactive patient, it will be your headache. They get that laundry list and they see formaldehyde, aluminum. You're poisoning me, doctor. There's some things we can help you with if you need. We then go to the 510K filings or the European equivalents, where they tell the government what's in the product and what it's similar to. We then go to the manufacturer's research or tech department. We have gone through some product databases, which are paid subscriptions. You can find out what's in. I promise you that these are not cheap. We invest about $20,000 a year to belong to these organizations. It's necessary for us to be able to accurately work with these products. We go to the published literature. Dr. John was researching this product 10 years ago over at Purdue, and here are all of the papers on it. Great way to find out about it and what they had problems with. And finally, when necessary, we can have physical testing done. What does it cost to have an alloy diagnosed? I send it out for ICP and mass spec or atomic absorption. I can tell you that the last time I had to do this, it cost me about $2,000 for an alloy that had 6 metals in it. People call us all the time and say, can I send you this crown and have you tell me what's in it? We know who can do it if you want to pay the bill. Why can't you tell me how sensitive? I mean, you've got this nice plate reader. Ours is from Molecular Devices. We invested $42,000 in it. It is not a cheap instrument. It reads out to several nice decimal places. How dense is the precipitin? We can look at that number. Others do also. If we have approximately the same amount of antigen and the same amount of antibody, we get a reaction that is way up here in density. Now down at the bottom we can vary the antigen or we can vary the antibody. Either one, it doesn't matter which. If they are severely mismatched, you get almost no reaction at all. As they become similarly matched, we get up here. Let's say that we hold the antigen constant. The antibody in some patients is here because they don't have much. For other patients, they have a scrud of antibody. But again, because it's out of balance, it's over here. If all I look at is the density in a microplate reader, is it least sensitive because it's here or least sensitive because it's here? Do you see why you cannot quantify this? When I see people saying this is least sensitive, this is most sensitive, I had the opportunity to explain this to a group from the American College of Allergy and Immunology. You can't do that. And I would suggest to you that if that is important to you, there are other tests that could possibly be used. Once we have tested, the test will cover a number of different chemical groups and families. One data set applies to many products. Doesn't matter how they got sensitive. If they react, they react. We can forecast after the fact. If I tested your patient last week and today Super Purple widget came on the market, all I have to do is to know which requisite chemical groups and families, which antigen groups are concerned. If we've covered those, I can say if Super Purple had been in the system last week, it would have shown as suitable or not well suited at that time. We do that out through 2 or perhaps 3 years if necessary. After a point, remember that these patterns can and do change. I have people who call me up and they have a 10-year-old data set and they want to know if some new product is going to work for this patient. Folks, data at that age is of historical interest and little else. It's useful beyond material screening. If I know that you have a problem, if you don't get along with eugenol in the cement, you ought to leave Grandma's sweet pickles with cloves alone. And you or your allied physician in network can use this data to help your patient. Known materials-related problems is a reason to test, compromised patients, environmental or universal reactors, high-cost or complex treatment plans. You're going to do a $35,000 whole mouth makeover, and you don't want to eat it if it goes sour. This is a patient you probably want to screen. And galvanically active patients, folks, it's going to be an issue. And sometimes you have just a worrywart patient that might like to have screening for peace of mind. This is one small section of our lab where the actual testing is done. Is it secret? No, it isn't. If you're ever in Colorado Springs during business hours, give us a call. I'll give you a tour of the lab. If you come in the morning hours, I'll even let you watch us run the day's work pack. There is nothing super secretive or sensitive. I'm not going to tell you what's in the reagents. I'm not going to tell you how to make hexane miscible. But I will certainly show you how we do the testing. Does it make a difference? These are blood cells that were taken from an apparently healthy donor. Many of you will have seen this slide before. After 5 minutes exposure to 1 part per 10 million mercury, this is what those same blood cells look like. Can materials be issues? Yes, they can. Now, if I were going to have a test done, how do I go about it? First of all, we'll send you a transport kit. It includes the shipping materials. It also includes the necessary overnight air bill already attached. It comes back to the lab at our expense. In 2 business days from the time we receive the specimen, you will have 2 copies of this report. 7,500 plus trade names. We're going to take this report and we will first tell you on the front page all of the chemical groups and families that have been evaluated for that patient. Those that were positive and reactive and those that are not. And some of you say, I don't want to have to go through that whole book and read it, and you don't need to. up to 45 products that you have a favor to using. If you'll let me know what they are, and it's editable, we can change it from time to time, we will repeat the trade names and the suited or not well suited indicator right on the front page. You may never need to open the report. A table of contents will tell you where can I find out about cements, where can I find out about non-metallic implants. And I use that advisedly. There's no such thing as a metal-free restorative. We're referring to those that are primarily fully oxidized metals when we say non-metal. In the yellow section of the report, the first section is composites. I think we have about 400 over 500, something like that, composites right now. Do you know there were that many? And about the time you think you've got them all, let me tell you we don't. But here, if I need to find a composite listed in alphabetical order, are the composites. In the back half of this report, you'll find the blue divider. That's where we start through an alphabetical list of trade names. I know that I want to use Cristobal, and I don't want to have to wade through all those categories in one huge master list. I can go and look up Cristobal and look for a suited or not well-suited indicator. It's that simple. Same test, it only has 1,700 products right now. This is for the orthopedic surgery market. You don't want to store bulky reports? We'll be happy to put it on a CD for you. We can encrypt it to HIPAA standards, or we can leave it plain and you have to protect it. We'll send it however you want it. You need it now, as soon as it comes off the bench. We can send an encrypted email copy. You decrypt with a key that we supply in a separate email to you, and it unfolds into a PDF that you can import into your LIMS system or that you can print out if you need a printed copy. Folks, that's the nutshell of testing. I have some sheets here called Test Summary at a Glance. What's it based on? How's it done? If any of you would care to have a copy of this sheet, they're up here. Our time is up, but I'd like to tell you that it's been a pleasure to talk with you today. Again, please understand that this is testing that our company provides. We sell this service. I think, however, there is some information that we've been able to share here today which might be useful generally in your practice. I hope it will be useful for your patient. Thanks.